Hello there guys, this is Christy Lewis at the Lakeport branch of the Lake County Library, and today I am here with a book haul of books by Black authors that we can be reading all year round, not just during Black History Month. Because really, they're good enough that you really just want to. You don't want to have to wait. You can order any of these for free through the library catalog, which is linked down below, so make sure to check out that catalog. Check out our library website, there's lots of other resources. But let's just get started. First of all, I want to talk about Octavia E. Butler, because her books are just growing in popularity all the time, and that's for really good reason. I was trying to get a book to hold up for you here today, but they're all checked out. I have only read one of her books, but I just remember being really just enthralled by the premise and by the writing itself. It's very immediate writing that really grabs me, kind of the way N.K. Jemisin does. It just has such a powerful imaginative force to it. And this particular novel, like I think most of Octavia Butler's novels, is science fiction, and it's rooted in African mythology. And it's just so unique. This one is called Wild Seed. Listen to this description, it's incredible. An entity who changes bodies like clothes, killing his hosts by reflex, Doro fears no one until he meets Ayanwu, who can absorb bullets and make medicine with a kiss, give birth to tribes, and savage anyone who threatens those she loves. I really enjoyed this novel. And also, good news, if you like it, it is a series. Wild Seed is available for free as an ebook and as an audiobook through the library catalog. Next, we have the Autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr. I believe I have read this one. However, I also read Why We Cant Wait, and that's the one that I particularly remember. That one's very interesting because you're getting his thoughts about the civil rights movement during the civil rights movement. And it's so thought-provoking to hear his thoughts and what he is saying to people during that time. And there's a lot of works that were written by Martin Luther King Jr. that are available through the catalog, so you can always just put Martin Luther King Jr. straight into the catalog and lots of other things will pop up. Ebook editions, audiobook editions. He's a good writer, and yeah, I would recommend his writings. He was really such a unifying voice, and I feel like that's really important today. You can't really overstate the importance of Martin Luther King Jr., as I'm sure you're aware. Next, I wanted to talk about Ralph Ellison, who wrote Invisible Man. And I'll just read you the description of that one. It's the compelling story of an anonymous black man who experiences a variety of adventures in the South and later in New York City during a fervent quest for personal identity and social visibility. Doesn't that just sound like so timeless? I forget exactly when this was set, but probably sometime in the 20th century. I remember reading this in school, and all I really remember is that it was very moving and that the detail was just very immersive. There's a scene I remember where the main character is walking around on the streets of New York City and he buys a yam, like a hot roasted yam, from a food vendor. It was just such visceral imagery that I immediately had to go to the store and buy yams, and I've loved them ever since. I just roast them, and it just brings back such a strong feeling of this book, so it's really stuck with me in the years since I read it. Even though I don't remember too many things, I think he gets involved in some kind of protest and he has to listen to a lot of the rhetoric of the time and kind of make up his mind about what he believes. It's like an Odyssey kind of a thing. Very good. And a friend of mine just told me that he read the collected essays of Ralph Ellison, and I am very interested in reading that. I would really love to read those. Invisible Man is available for free as an ebook and as an audiobook through the library catalog. Next, I would like to talk about Ernest J. Gaines. And first of all, let's talk about his book A Lesson Before Dying, which is about a black man who was accused falsely of a crime in the South. I forget what time period exactly this is, but it's sometime during the 20th century, possibly during like the 40s or 50s, somewhere around there. Probably between like the 40s and the 60s, somewhere around there. And he is sentenced to death. And obviously, you know, anybody's gonna be in a certain amount of shock and anger, and they're not gonna want to cooperate with the authorities in a situation like that. But the man's lawyer, who has done everything possible to try and save him from this totally unjust fate, has told him now the only thing that you can do is become a man before you die and face death like a man. Because right now, this young man is very immature, he's very young, he's just not ready to die. And he's acting out because of that. And the lawyer is just trying to help him to kind of grieve the unjustness of this life. And we know that this is something that did happen in the South, where black men were accused of crimes and punished for them, even though they were innocent. So I thought this was a very powerful and moving story, very human. And even the lawyer has his own personal journey. He's the one who's telling the story, and I just thought it was brilliant. But even more so, I think the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman is brilliant. And it's all because of Jane, who narrates most of this story. So Jane is 110 or more years old. She's not sure because she was born as a slave, and so they don't know the exact date of her birth. However, she was born shortly before the demise of slavery. She was about 10 years old, and now she's 100 years later being interviewed by a man, oral interviews, and recording her story. Shortly after the interviews are finished, she dies. This isn't a nonfiction story. This is still a novel. However, all of these things are very plausible experiences that Black people likely did experience in the South. All these experiences that Jane went through, and there's a lot of really heartbreaking stuff in there. But what's really powerful about this novel is Jane herself. Her voice is full of humor, and she's so determined, and she has such wisdom and confidence in the face of really just unfair odds that it makes the story very triumphant, and it keeps her from ever feeling like a victim. Even though she was the victim of so many, like countless crimes, you just fall in love with Jane during this narration, and her voice is wonderful, and the price of knowing such a wonderful person is you go through the painful life story that she has to tell us. And I just thought it was wonderful. This is one of my favorite books of the year so far. It was the book that I chose to read this year for Black History Month, and you can get it for free as an audiobook through the library catalog, and I highly recommend that you do. It's also very short, and you will love Jane. This is my pick of the haul. And I forgot to mention that A Lesson Before Dying is available for free as an ebook, an audiobook, or a book on audio CDs. Plus, there's a movie adaptation. There's also a movie adaptation of the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, and it stars Cecily, I can't remember what her last name is, and I am on the very long waiting list to get this movie, and I can't wait to watch it. I have a feeling that Ernest J. Gaines could become a favorite author of mine once I've read more of his stuff. And finally, let's talk about Angie Thomas. Angie Thomas wrote the controversial young adult contemporary book called The Hate You Give, which explores the issue of police brutality against Black men. And while you may not agree with the messaging of this story, which I completely understand, this story definitely does have an agenda, but the characters have so much heart and warmth. I found it really hard not to get wrapped up in their lives and their stories, and I really did enjoy the characters. I personally can't wholeheartedly recommend it because it is such a message-heavy book, but I think Angie Thomas does have a talent for crafting those really wonderful, believable characters, so it might be something that you really enjoy. Just a heads up, there is a lot of language in the book, so if you're sensitive to that, you might not want to try the audiobook, but it is available for free as an ebook and as an audiobook. And there has been a movie adaptation. And now we have Concrete Rose by the same author, Angie Thomas, and this is about the father of the girl that The Hate You Give is about. So The Hate You Give follows Star when she's leaving a party with a friend and they get pulled over by the cops, and the friend makes a sudden movement. It's an innocuous movement. It's not meant to be brutal in any way. He's like just checking on Star or something, or I don't know. He just moves very quickly though, and it startles the police officer, and the police officer just automatically pulls his gun and shoots the boy. This book actually follows Star's father, and it's a slightly different issue about gangs, and it tackles a slightly different issue, and that's gang life that young men have to deal with in inner city life. And there is some of that in The Hate You Give. There's a lot of familial love almost between a gang and the girl's father in The Hate You Give, and while that might strike you as a bit odd for like a responsible citizen to be relying on the gangs rather than the police to help him protect his family, which is what happens in The Hate You Give, this story is going to kind of explain how that happened. The father was born into gang life. His father was like a big time leader of a big gang, and he is trying to go straight once he has a daughter, once his girlfriend gets pregnant, and he wants to be able to take care of his kids, and he wants to get out of that gang life. And this, I think, is going to be showing how difficult that is once you are involved in gang activity. So I think it's gonna be a good story. There might again be some messaging in there that not everybody agrees with, but I bet it's very moving. And if you look at these quotes, this is just one word punchy recommendations all over. I don't think you can probably see that. Oh, maybe you can see it? I don't know. But anyways, yeah, consider looking at these books for emotional truth rather than necessarily the political truth, which is like a common thing in young adult literature. The most important thing in young adult literature is emotional truth and voice, and these books have it in abundance. So I think she's probably an author to watch. I doubt you need to be told to check those out, but sometimes if one book by an author becomes like a mega bestseller, their other works get kind of ignored. So we definitely don't want to do that with Angie Thomas. I think she's probably going to only improve from her debut. I'm fascinated to see where she goes in the future. Well, that is it, guys. I hope that this book haul of African American authors was helpful to you. I hope that you found another author or two to check out. And if you have any suggestions for us, please leave them down below in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to check out our website, all linked down below. And I do have the search terminology for all of these books down below in the description. So just type those into the library catalog's website and you will be able to find them there. I'll talk to you soon. Until next time, bye-bye.